1 week later, the influencer murders.
Special Agent. It has been 1 week, and the task force has received a second video from the math problem killer. He is holding a young woman named Julie Gray at 1239 Sycamore Street. And same as last time, we can only send one agent inside to attempt a rescue. Due to your success last week at the Bethany Morgan facility, I've decided to send you in again. Now, there are multiple Julie Grays registered in the city, and there have been no missing reports submitted for Julie Gray, so I cannot give you any information on the hostage. I can, however, give you some intel on the location. 1239 Sycamore Street is similar to the Bethany Morgan facility in that it is an abandoned commercial construction site. According to the city planning office, the building plans submitted indicated the site had 5 rooms. If the suspect has set it up like last time, you can expect 5 trapdoors to disarm, plus the final crate holding Julie Gray. Remember, precision and accuracy are paramount in these operations. Each step you take, each decision that you make must be measured and deliberate. Take the time to analyze, to assess, and to solve the problems presented by the suspect. Now get in there and bring Julie Gray out alive. Good luck.
Let's go.
Hello there, Special Agent.
Hi again,
You might
sicko.
think you are something special, getting that lovely Bethany Morgan out of her little box alive. But let me tell you something. You are nothing. You are insignificant. And I am going to prove it. I have another little toy named Julie Gray locked in a box somewhere at the end of this little dungeon of mine. I will let you have her back if you can answer all of my questions correctly. However, if you make even one mistake, the little toy burns. Let's talk about my little toy, Special Agent. Her name is Julie Gray. She is 23 years old, and I found her on social media. Can you believe these foolish people posting everything about their lives on social media for anyone to find and consume? Julie Gray was no different. If a single thought entered her head, she would post it online. Where she goes to school, where she works, where she lives, what her habits are. She posts her routines, her schedules, her hobbies, people she cares about. She was so desperate for validation. Maybe, if Julie Gray did not post so much, her boyfriend and her friends would still be alive, and she would not be locked inside a metal box about to be burned alive by acid.
Yeah, I don't recommend posting too much personal stuff on social media.
Let me read you one of her social media posts. Quote, going to O'Shea's tonight at 7 for shots and partying. #living. Well, guess where I was at 7 p.m., Special Agent? At the bar, waiting. Julie showed up 18 minutes after 7. She was with 2 other girls, Carla Gresham and Vanessa Hoffman. The 3 girls each had a brain-dead, muscle-bound boyfriend. They would be dealt with. The girls were all very pretty. I decided to pay each one of them a visit once I had my Julie. I watched the group for the rest of the night. I knew exactly where to go. I knew exactly where Julie was vulnerable. I knew exactly when to strike, and I did not even need to leave my computer. And now Julie Gray is mine. But I will let you have her back, Special Agent, if you can answer my questions. All you have to do is add variable A to variable B. The answer will open door number 1.
Okay, so we need to figure out variable A and variable B still. Here's the door.
At 3 p.m., when the bars closed, Julie left with Carla and Vanessa and their boyfriends, and Carter left the group. That was foolish. There is strength in numbers. There is strength in the pack. When one of the prey separates from the pack, that is when the predators strike. I saw an opportunity to get rid of Carter. I took it. I followed him back to his apartment. But before I tell you the rest, Special Agent, I want you to start with Julie's age and then multiply it by the time she said she was going to arrive at the bar. And then add the number of minutes she was late to the bar. Then multiply your answer by the time the bar closed. Your final answer will be variable A.
Okay, so that's going to be 23 years old times 7 p.m. plus 18 minutes late times 3 is the closing time, which equals 5:37. So we have variable A is 5:37.
It took us 23 minutes to get back to his apartment. Carter, who was 29 years old, stumbled to the front door. It was clear he was drunk. I simply walked up behind him, grabbed him, and threw him into his apartment. I duct taped his mouth and tied him to one of his chairs. I then grabbed a knife from the kitchen and began to practice my pumpkin carving on his body. He was dead 57 minutes later, but not from my cutting. He was screaming so much from the cutting that he began to throw up. It's just too bad my duct tape was on his mouth. He choked to death on his own vomit. Listen up, Special Agent. I want you to start with Carter's age, then multiply by the number of minutes he survived after I started cutting him, and then add the number of minutes it took us to get to his apartment. The answer will be variable B.
Alright, so Carter is 29. Took him 57 minutes to die. Took 23 minutes to get to the apartment. Multiply by 3. No. Damn it. Right here. Alright, so Carter's 29. Took him 57 minutes to die and took 23 minutes to get to the apartment. It's going to be 29 times 57 plus 23, which is going to equal 1676. So we add 1676 to 537 and get 2213. Go. Uh-oh. Why are they all painted? Are they supposed to have acid on them?
With Carter out of the way, and by out of the way, I mean covered in blood and vomit and tied to a chair in his kitchen,
Oh,
it was time to meet up with Julie for some private time. Normally, I will watch Prey for 3 days, gathering intelligence, learning where they live, where they are most vulnerable. But with Julie did all the work for me. It only took 25 minutes to figure out when and where I was going to take her. Her apartment at 6 o'clock.
3 days.
It took me 38 minutes to arrive at her apartment at 9783 West Newport Road. I arrived at 6 p.m. I walked casually up to the 3rd floor and I knocked on apartment 32. Julie opened the door, and at that moment, her nightmare began.
This is actually going to be such a pain to edit.
Julie screamed as I entered her apartment. I grabbed her quickly and put her on the floor. She screamed, "Please don't." I duct taped her mouth, her arms, and her legs. I rolled her over on her back and I looked her into the eyes. I I got my head real close. Her eyes bulged with fear. She was breathing heavy. For so long, Julie Gray lived in a fake la-la world of social media posts and hashtags, but in that moment, that very moment, she was back in reality. She was back in the real world. I took her back to my dungeon 3 hours later. I want you to start with the number of minutes it took me to figure out when and where I was going to abduct her. Then add the time I arrived at her apartment. You will then multiply by Julie's age. I next want you to add her apartment number, then multiply the number of hours I waited before I took her back to my dungeon. Is that too complicated for you, Special Agent? Good. That's the point. You are going to make a mistake, and you are going to enter the wrong code, and you will kill Julie Gray. Your answer will open door number 2.
Alright, this one is a bit tricky, and it's that first digit. How long it took him to figure out when he was going to do it. So, was it the 38 minutes, or did he say something about it before we opened door 1?
Julie screamed as I entered her apartment. I grabbed her quickly and put her on the floor. She screamed, "Please don't." With Carter out of the way, and by out of the way, I mean covered in blood and vomit and tied to a chair in his kitchen, it was time to meet up with Julie for some private time. Normally, I will watch Prey for 3 days, gathering intelligence, learning where they live, where they are most vulnerable. But with Julie did all the work for me. It only took 25 minutes to figure out when and where I was going to take her. Her apartment at 6 o'clock.
Okay. He said that pretty clearly that it was 25 minutes. Here's door number 2. What's behind door number 2, Bob? Alright, so for door 2 here, we have 25 minutes to figure out how to abduct her, plus 6 p.m., so what time you got there, times her age of 23, plus her apartment number of 32, times 3, which equals 2235, I hope. Hooray. Oh, this is getting bad.
Julie was now locked in the metal box in my dungeon, with nothing but her screams to keep her company. Now it was time to visit Carla Gresham, one of Julie's friends that she met at O'Shea's bar. Just like Julie, she posted every moment of her life on social media. And in a few short clicks, I knew exactly where Carla was. 29 minutes later, I was following her on 17th Street. I had been following Carla, age 23, for 3 blocks. We were on 20th Street when Matthew Thompson, age 31, and Jeremy Fields, age 34, intentionally bumped into my left and then right shoulder. 2 then got very close, looked me in the eyes, and quietly but sternly said, "Some people do not like to be followed." That was the worst mistake of their lives.
Oh.
Matthew and Jeremy's chosen tactic was to intimidate me into leaving Carla alone. I could have killed them both at that very moment. One quick slice to the throat with my knife and it would have been all over. But these two challenged me. They made me lose my prey. They were going to suffer. I feigned timidity and meekly turned and walked away. I wanted them to think they had won. This would cause them to lower their guard, and lower their guard they did. I followed them for the next 9 hours. They both woke up in my dungeon. Julie was in the next room. They could hear her screaming. I had them hanging from the ceiling by their hands. I first started cutting off 3 toes from Jeremy's right foot, then 4 fingers from Jeremy's right hand. He screamed. Then Matthew screamed for me to stop. So I did. Then I picked up my hammer and nails and began hammering 8-inch nails into Matthew. I put 13 nails into his right arm and 7 nails into his left leg. I went back and forth between the 2 men for 11 hours. At 1 p.m. at the bar on 39th Street, I was able to put a little Rufinol into Jeremy's drink. He began to pass out. Being the good friend, Matthew took his friend out of the bar and drove back to his apartment and carried him inside. I followed them in. Jeremy was drugged, so all I had to do was deal with Matthew. I attacked him from behind. It was over quickly. Listen up, Special Agent. I want you to start with Matthew's age and add Carla's age. Then I want you to multiply by the length of the nails I hammered into Matthew. Then subtract the number of fingers I cut off of Jeremy before starting to hammer into Matthew. Then multiply by the street number that Matthew and Jeremy bumped into me on. Then finally subtract the number of hours I tortured the 2 men. Your final answer will be very belay.
Okay, so for this we have Matthew is 31 plus Carl is 23 times 8-inch nails minus cut off 4 fingers times 20 for 20th Street minus 11 hours of torture, which would give us 85.49.
Special Agent, Matthew and Jeremy were a lot like you. They tried to save a total stranger, just like you were trying to save a total stranger. They prevented me from taking Carla, at least for a day, and you prevented me from killing Bethany Morgan. Maybe it's time I show you some of my nails, Special Agent. Why don't you try this? I want you to start with Jeremy's age and multiply that by the number of toes I cut off his foot. Then add very belay. The answer will open door number 3.
Okay. So he's 34 years old times 3 toes equals 102. And then add that to variable A, which is 85.49. Gives us 86.51. I sure hope. Right. Oh, jeez, there's blue ones now. Green, oh, jeez, what's this?
Just like Julie Gray, Carla Gresham published her entire life on social media for complete strangers to consume. Within 11 minutes, I learned where she lived, and thanks to another social media post about how she was watching a scary movie that night, I knew she was going to be home. It was time to strike. After I was done dealing with Matthew and Jeremy, I needed to find Carla again. Carla was 23. I went to her social media. She had just posted about what a great day she spent shopping at the mall on 52nd Street. I stared at Carla. She was gorgeous. She had hundreds of photos of her in provocative outfits, posing in suggestive positions. I decided to spend some time with Carla.
Slut.
It took me 39 minutes to reach her apartment. I knocked on the door. Carla's boyfriend, Ross, aged 28, answered the door. I tasered him and he fell to the ground. I barged into the apartment. Carla screamed, but within 16 seconds, I had her bound and gagged. Carla woke up in a chair sitting in front of a large metal box. Ross was locked inside that metal box. I told her I was going to ask her a math question. If she got it right, I would ask another. If she got it wrong, I would pour 3 liters of hydrofluoric acid into the box containing Ross. It turns out Carla was very bad at math.
Maybe she just didn't like him.
You must start with Carla's age, then multiply by the amount of time it took me to learn where she lived from her social media. Then multiply by the number of liters of hydrofluoric acid I would pour into the crate if she got my math questions wrong. The answer will open door number 4.
Okay, so this one's going to be 23 years old times 11 minutes times 3 liters. But that gives us 759, which is a little strange since all the other numbers have been 4-digit numbers. I feel like this is going to be wrong, but I can't think of what else it would be. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, wow, okay, a 3-digit number. Pretty sure that's the first non-4-digit number in the game.
Once my time with Carla and Ross was over, it was time to go see Vanessa Hoffman, age 25. She was Julie's third friend from O'Shea's. Just like Carla and Julie, she posted everything on social media. Vanessa was so full of narcissism. She was foolish, so naive. Our privacy is a guardian special agent. It is a shield, a protector from the madness that lurks in the outside world, and Vanessa surrendered that guardian, that shield and protector. It was easy to find her, to stalk her, to approach her, and finally, to take her. Let's hope all those social media likes was worth it.
So I guess this guy's like a modern day Saul. Jigsaw.
It took me 11 minutes to learn where Vanessa lived, and then another 36 minutes to arrive at Vanessa's apartment. The time was 10 p.m. I walked up the stairs and knocked on the door. Vanessa's boyfriend, Clayton, age 31, answered the door. I tasered him and he fell to the ground. I then raced into the apartment and jumped onto Vanessa. I had her bound and gagged in duct tape in 37 seconds. 86 minutes later, they were both back in my dungeon. And then the real fun began. I told them that they could take the other person's torment. If I was going to cut Vanessa, then Clayton could say he would take that torment and I would cut him instead. Conversely, they could also give their torment away. If I was going to cut Vanessa, she could give the cut to Clayton. They turned on each other immediately.
Oh,
They both started screaming to hurt the other person.
Oh, no
I
way.
knew they would. So I slit both of their throats.
Good, I guess, actually. In this one instance, good.
When When Clayton and Vanessa woke up, they were tied to chairs in my dungeon. They were facing each other. I told them what I was going to do to them. I went into gory, excruciating detail. They both started to scream uncontrollably and begged me to let them go. I decided to play a game with the two. I want you to start with Vanessa's age, then multiply by the number of minutes it took me to learn where Vanessa lived from her social media, then multiply by the time I arrived at her apartment. Then add the number of seconds it took me to bound and gag Vanessa with duct tape. The answer will open the final door.
Okay, we're at the final door, and for this one we have to take Vanessa's age, which is 25, multiply it by 11 minutes that it took him to find her, multiply that by 10 o'clock, which is the time he arrived, and then add 37, which is the amount of time it took him to bind her, which equals 2787. Go. Door.
So the stupid, pathetic little task force agent thinks they are smart enough to rescue Julia Gray just because you made it to the final room? Is that what you think? Well, let me tell you what is really going to happen. You are going to add variable A to variable B, but you are going to do the math wrong, and you are going to kill Julia Gray.
See about that,
That
bud.
is what is going to happen, Special Agent.
We will see about that.
Let's not forget why we are here. The beautiful Julie Gray. I want you to start with Julie's age, then multiply by the number of minutes her boyfriend Carter survived after I started carving into his body. The answer will be variable B.
So that's going to be 23 years old times 57 minutes that he survived.
Let's talk about Julie's beautiful friends, Carla Gresham and Vanessa Hoffman. I want you to add their ages together, then multiply by the number of seconds it took me to bound and gag Vanessa Hoffman in duct tape. Then multiply the number of liters of hydrofluoric acid I poured onto Carla's boyfriend every time she got a math question wrong. The answer will be variable A.
Okay, so for this one, we have to add Carla's age of 23 to Vanessa's age of 25. Multiply that by 37 seconds it took him to bind Vanessa. And then multiply all of that by the 3 liters of acid that he was pouring on her boyfriend. Adding variable A to variable B so that's 1311 plus 5328 gives us 6639.
All right, everyone.
All right.
Let's get this debrief started. I want to first start by commending the special agent that entered this facility alone and successfully recovered Julie Gray alive. Your composure, critical thinking, and analytical approach are reflective of the highest standards of this task force. Outstanding work. Okay, next. This is the second week, and we've already had a second abduction. That is incredibly fast turnaround time. Usually these types of individuals take time to revel in their accomplishment. It's usually a couple weeks, even months before the next abduction. The fact that it occurred almost immediately is extremely worrisome. This means we need to get motivated. We now have 2 facilities to examine, which means we now have 2 opportunities to find forensic clues. I want the forensic teams working overtime conducting comprehensive reviews of these locations. Any clue, no matter how insignificant, will put us one step closer to catching this guy. Alright everyone, let's get to work. I want to catch this suspect before he grabs another innocent bystander.
All right, so there we finished up week 2 of the math problem killer, and it's obvious that these are going to get more and more difficult and longer. So I'm thinking it's not feasible to get it all out in one video. If I do, it'll take me a month. We'll see. But I think I'm going to do it in individual episodes and then also one full video at the end. Well, I hope you enjoyed week 2 of Math Problem Killer. Stay tuned for week 3, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out for now.